Marshall should be down here. He's doing that show commercial probably.
Go for it.
Let's call this meeting to order. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Anybody want to lead us in prayer?
I will.
This is the Highway Commission meeting, and so if you wouldn't mind, just pray for us.
All right, dear Heavenly Father, I just praise your holy, wonderful name, Lord, and I pray that you'll guide us and direct us in everything we say and do tonight, Lord. Help us to be open to your advisement, and please give us strength to do the right thing. I pray that we'll have hearts open to you and to each other. All these things I ask in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
And I just want to say one more note. I know that we've had a few meetings, but there's a lot of things that's very abrupt that we lost our sheriff. So I just think that it goes without saying that there's a lot of folks that's sad about that in this county, and for good reason. And so he drove up these roads all the time, and so I was thinking about him when he was driving in here this morning. So very missed. Okay, roll call. Let's see. Is everybody here?
Everybody but Shannon, because she resigns.
Yeah, everybody's here now. This is our first meeting since, and it hasn't been brought up yet. And so, and by the way, I'm sorry, Christy, I missed telling you. But Shannon Bergdorf, Commissioner Bergdorf, she was fantastic. There was literally no reason. It's just that when we decided to go to the full every single month, which we didn't meet last month, so it's not a good example. But she just said, I can't do that. She said, I support you guys doing it, and I'm all for highway. And so she had nothing but good things to say. It was no bad reason. Just want to make sure y'all know that she was unable to do that schedule, and she was kind enough to step off just so that somebody else can step on whenever the time's right. So awesome, and I believe that that's everything on that. But if y'all wouldn't mind, can I have I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, all opposed, same token. Okay, approval of the minutes from last meeting.
Make a motion.
Okay.
Second.
Second. Okay, did you see? It was Don. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Recognition of the public. I didn't have a sheet out, it's my fault, but does anybody want to speak at all for anything? Anything at all? Okay. Then going once. We'll close that. Public recognition closed. Report of the chairman, there's really no report, except I know that we've had a few, wild bouts of weather and flooding, and you guys and gals have just worked very hard, and I appreciate that so much. I know that, I not just me, I mean, people have just told me a lot of praise and love for y'all, so very much appreciate that.
Thank you.
Don't have anything on old or new business for me, so I'm going to go ahead and move on and just say, if you would do you have a report?
Yes, I've been speaking with the city of Hendersonville. They reached out to me a little over probably a month and a half ago about a project that they were looking into, and just trying to figure out pros and cons and all the different things that go with doing a project of this magnitude. And so we talked for a few weeks, and they come up with a plan. They really wanted to come and talk to the Highway Commission about what their goal is and what the project would entail. And they sent a really nice layout of where the project's going to be, how they would do it, and all the variables that are intertwined in something of this magnitude. So without saying too much more, Miss Sarah Locke is going to, and Jesse is going to go over this project with us in detail. And we've got the handout, which is the email. Y'all should have got the email as well, but it has all the information in it. I'm going to let them have the floor.
Can we just go ahead and, can we have a motion to suspend the rules?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you,
Thank you, Mr. Ellis. Since you guys have a staff report, I'll try and keep the comments brief here. My name is Jesse. I can offer serves as Chief of Operations for the City of Hendersonville, and Sarah Locke is the Public Works you guys have the staff report, we have copies if you don't have it. But basically, this is a reconfiguration of these intersections that are offset from each other. And the project will improve the circulation, and there are safety features that this roundabout will also bring to fruition. So Sarah's going to touch briefly on some of those safety features, and then I'll just give you guys an update on timeline and cost.
Sure, so with roundabouts, one of the biggest benefits of them is they are considered an alternative to traffic signals. In this particular location, with the 5 offset approaches to this area intersection, you have a lot of conflict points. So a lot of opportunity for crashes and a lot of opportunity for serious crashes. And so a traditional 4-way approach intersection has 32 conflict points. A roundabout reduces that to 8. And so we really felt like this is 5-leg, of course, so it's a little different, but that just gives some scope. It's about a 70% reduction in those conflict points. So that's one of the major drivers for this particular configuration, and it allows ease of access. So other benefits associated with that would be reduced air pollution. Not as much stop and go, not as much sitting in a queue. For instance, we put up a traffic signal, you've had people sitting there for up to a minute, waiting for their turn to get through, possibly longer depending on volume. So this would be a pretty significant improvement for the area. The center of the roundabout is proposed to be open, so there would be, on either side, there would be 3 barrel box culverts, and then the center would be open, so that we would have guardrail through the center, and then on the sides, we would have pedestrian railing on those sides where it's adjacent to the stream. And so we believe this to be a significant safety improvement. We're looking forward to it.
Sarah. As far as the funding goes, there's 3 sources of funding we're going to use for this. We are trying to meet the deadline. We plan to use ARPA funding for the majority of this project. We did collect some fees from the developer to use towards this project, and then city funds as well. We're not asking for any county funds to do the project. We have it budgeted within the city's funds. Project timeline, we are under a September 2026 completion date to utilize ARPA funds. So if we don't make that date, then it's going to be all local taxpayer dollars coming out of the city funds. But we are shooting, we've actually put a schedule together and worked backwards, so we're shooting to make that September 26th deadline. If everything falls in place, we can use that, and then we can utilize the ARPA funding, so it doesn't have to be all local taxpayer dollars. And so the specific request here is that a small portion of this roadway falls into the county jurisdiction, so we'd have to tie into the county roadway. So that's a specific request before you tonight. And as far as ongoing maintenance, that's something that we've identified. It makes more sense for us to maintain the roundabout as a whole. So for us to continue, not just for our portion of the roundabout, but for the entire roundabout. When we go to stripe it, to stripe the whole thing, to repave the whole thing, and not leave out a little section of it too. So for maintenance costs, the city is considering that we just take the maintenance costs on. So when we go in there, we stripe the whole thing, we pave the whole thing. So not a contribution from the county, that's not what we're asking for. It's just that some of this is in the county's jurisdiction, so that's why we're here tonight. If there's any questions you guys have, we'd be happy to answer them. We have exhibits, large-scale exhibits for you as well.
Thank you for being here.
Sure. Sarah saw on Exhibit A here, from the north side of the roundabout itself. Roundabouts typically are not really pedestrian friendly. And I noticed on this particular exhibit that you have most of your traffic or ped traffic would come from the Durham Farms area. Is there a reason why you would have sidewalks basically not going anywhere on the southern side, the west, and the eastern side?
It's just to provide that for future growth. If we ever do any improvements to, like, say, Drake's Creek Road and approach the northbound approach, then we would already have that in place around and provide that circulation.
Okay. I was just asking that as being an Hendersonville resident. I was just noticed that I haven't seen the development yet, and was just wondering, with the pedestrian access going through the roundabout itself.
Yeah. So we designed it to have the pedestrian access all the way around. One thing that has been discussed is possibly not constructing, like having the grading all in place and having it prepared, but not necessarily constructing it all at the time of this project, but that hasn't been determined yet.
So you could have your island splitters and just not have the
Sidewalks.
pedestrian going through? Would that be correct?
Like, we might still construct those splitters as separated to provide a pedestrian refuge, but with no sidewalks approaching it, just so it's constructed in a place we wouldn't have to retrofit that in the future.
Okay. All right.
I also do have, it has a staff report with it, so it's a duplicate for you, but there are attached larger versions of those exhibits, so they're a little bit easier to see.
Thank you. I have a question, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
A question.
sorry, go ahead.
So, Jesse or Sarah, who are the landowners on the 5 corners of the entryways into this roundabout? Is it privately owned land, or is it public, a mixture, or?
The majority of it is privately owned.
So would you be using eminent domain to do this?
That would not be the goal. I mean, we would not. There are gonna be some easements, both temporary and permanent, that are needed, but absolutely, and the very last option, half.
Well, what are the other options, like just offer them to purchase that, or?
Yeah, because it's ARPA funding, you have to go through the appraisal process. So those appraisals have to meet the map, the uniform map. So we are doing that process right now, and that's a fair market value. And then there is an offer that's submitted to the property owners for both the temporary, because there's temporary easements for like while construction activities going on, they may need
Sure,
to be a little bit on the property. So they do a calculation to pay for temporary and for permanent.
Have you talked to any of the landowners, how they receptive to it, or?
So we had an appraisal done. We are redoing the appraisals right now. We don't have them all in. We had made contact with some of the property owners. I think maybe in fact all of them but one. Some were receptive, some were not as receptive, but we don't have the final appraisals in hand yet. They are still under review, but we expect to have relatively soon.
So was it your take after speaking with them that it depended on the money, or some of them absolutely have no matter what the money is?
I didn't personally go out and speak with them. I think we had our appraiser R&D do that.
Yeah, we had a sub-consultant handling the acquisition and interactions. And so I'm not aware that any of them are complete deal breakers. I know that one of them that was very concerned wanted the full Uniform Act appraisal, and so.
Before they even made the decision?
Right, so we've gone back and kind of, because originally this project was to be funded with just city dollars and then as well as the developer fees from Durham Farms. And so we went through an appraisal process, but it was not the full Uniform Act appraisal process with the reviews, which is a little bit different, it's a little bit more expensive. And so since we're using federal dollars now for the construction, we went back and we're having those redone.
So with just a rough order of magnitude appraisal, I'm sure you have something rough. Do you have room in the ARPA allotment to possibly make that happen? Is it something you can't talk about yet, or?
No, I think with ARPA, with the actual ARPA funds, I think if the city were to subsidize some of the city funds, that might be eligible. We haven't really had to cross that bridge yet, but we do have to subsidize the project with city dollars anyway, because there's not enough ARPA funds, but the majority of it, we plan to use ARPA funds.
Well, I like the idea of it. I mean, I understand the need for it in that area, and particularly which zones are the county owned, the north side of countryside, or is it the whole countryside in Avant?
So there's an exhibit, yeah, so this one shows it really well here, where it gives you the red line.
Okay.
You have
That's
So,
county?
Yeah, if you see the blue, that would be county. And so
Okay.
we actually did redesign the roundabout already, because the first plan, it did encroach on, as you can see, it's pretty close to like where the road is right now.
Right.
We redesigned it to actually take less and be closer to the original road design, so it went back already for a redesign to take the least amount possible. So that this is kind of round two to take the least amount of property possible, with
Is-
both temporary and permanent easements.
Is this current, is this map fairly current? Like, are there no structures in these areas even now? I see the house right there and the house right there, but
Yeah.
It was already.
I'm trying to see
Just
how much is gonna be affected by homeowners versus just laying in front of us.
We have a few.
Is
That
this pretty
is
current?
Very current, and this is
It
Durham
says
Farms
June,
open
June
space.
21st,
It's
2024.
almost like a mini retention area.
Okay.
That may
That's
be when
good.
that was actually.
That's right.
So that driveway, like, where's that
That's a
go to?
It's,
It is.
that's a swale, it's a concrete,
What's this way?
like a ditch.
Oh, okay, for drainage and stuff?
That's
So that means that area is probably lowlands and has building issues anyway, right?
Yeah, so what we did is try to lay the project over, we laid the project over the existing roadway, and we tried to tin it so that you could see the existing roadway under, and there's
Yeah, yeah.
some slight deviation.
I'll see it, yeah,
But
whips
it's,
out right there.
yeah,
It's
it's the
pretty
new
much all
project,
those.
over the existing roadway conditions.
Right, the only part is the circle eats out into the corners, that was my only.
Yeah, and this is the city.
Reason for asking.
That's the city, so the county portion would be here, and this little blue, this little sidewalk.
So I see two homeowners that part of their usable space may be encroached on, so that's why I was asking those questions. And one more further question is the, excuse me. Sarah, you had mentioned the improvements to the traffic, or to the safety. How much of this was safety driven versus traffic driven? Is it for future traffic, or is it mainly just safety? Do you guys have a lot of accidents there, or?
No, we haven't had a lot of accidents. We've just identified this as an area where I think people probably use extra care because of its current configuration. But I see a high propensity there for serious crashes. I think it's very possible. We've had 3 that are directly related to the current configuration where there was some miscuing. Someone pulled out from Anderson thinking that someone was turning right onto
Countryside.
Yeah, so then they
Got T-boned.
turned, and yes, so we've had 3 incidences like that in the last 3 years. And then with the growing traffic, we do see an issue. There's a lot of queuing out there, a lot of congestion and frustration.
It's already backing up right in
It
that area?
does, yeah. And so it's very difficult to get out of Anderson sometimes. I'm sure it is for Countryside as well. To be honest, I haven't paid as much attention to that particular leg, but we get calls about it frequently.
Well, Mr. Chairman, my last question, is this a matter that we vote on? Is this an FYI? Do we give approval for that, for the county property to be looked at, or
I'm gonna ask legal on that.
maybe Toby?
If there's gonna be any kind of consent on the county's part, I'm sure the commission will have to sign off on it, but I'm assuming you all are just looking for
Are
some
we just
sort
a
of.
pass through?
No, we would have to approve it up to the
Okay.
commission level.
Yeah,
for them to
but the
vote on.
commission would say, you're just looking for like an MOU or something like that, I'm assuming? We're not, the county's not contributing funds towards the maintenance or
Right.
upkeep, so it's just a understanding of who's gonna take care of what. So I assume I would work with the city attorney and somebody get drafted out to run through commission.
My primary concerns are just that the homeowners are considered and they're made whole on their investments, that it doesn't take too much for them and it's done in a fair way, and I don't like the use of eminent domain. So I don't know how I vote on something like that without it being known what the fair market value is with what's being proposed to them. Is that something we can know before a vote? Because you said you gotta know something by September for the ARPA funds to be dedicated, right?
Well, the entire project has to be complete by September of 2026.
Okay, when do you have to allocate the money towards a project? What's the deadline for that?
Every day is counting for this project to meet that deadline.
I get it.
So, literally every day counts for this project. We'll still probably do the project, we'll have to use all local dollars rather than those ARPA funds. But we are under a very tight timeline.
Can you give us a timeline for knowing that appraisal study to know what?
I don't know that we have an exact date in mind that we have to have it, because we didn't give a lot of leeway in the construction schedule. It's tough to say, because if they get out there and there's a month delay in the construction schedule, and we didn't build in a month delay, and we only built in 20 days. But I would say that every day matters in the funding on this and the timeline.
So, can I ask you a couple questions? Thanks for this. This is really helpful. I remember just looking through this, I thought this is so helpful because I know right where this is. But Now, I've never ran into much trouble. I take this cut through sometimes, and I've never run into much trouble, but I see the need for it. And I even have to say that this even makes sense if there were no growth, just because if somebody's running, it's just a safer trick to go around that way. So I mean, even if it did lead to nowhere else, I get that. I know it probably does lead to some sort of, thought growth, for the layout, but I think that, the thing is, Commissioner Jones said, I don't like the idea of just eminent domain. I'd like to know what these folks saw. I'd like to have an idea of how they feel about that. I thought you guys might have it, that's why I didn't go and ask them, but there's that. And then the other question that I would have is, would that by chance increase the chances of having an accident, over somebody come around? You understand where I'm saying? Like, I don't mean on the thing, but I mean out in the.
I think that roundabouts generally are naturally traffic calming. People drive slower. And so I think the likelihood of that is actually decreased with the roundabout design.
Yeah, I think you're right. But it's just, I don't know, I think that's my one worry. I thought, because right here, this is gonna be a real affected area, and I'm wondering if this is part of their land, or if it's like an actual standalone lot that would have been.
Does Josh need to give any input
So
on this?
the parcel line probably runs something like right along
Right
there.
over
It's
the ground.
divided and it's the two different property owners.
Okay.
Kind of
Well,
nice thing.
Thanks for putting this
Mr.
together.
Chairman.
Yeah.
So Sarah and/or Jesse, so this exhibit here, how would you say that this compares to the existing roundabout on the north side of Durham Farms versus this size? Because we have to look at it through the lens of a big Mayflower truck having to make this. So what would you say, how this compares to the one that seems rather large on the northern side of Durham Farms versus the one up by Sam's, which I believe is really small, but in comparison?
I was prepared for that part. I was not prepared for the Durham Farms roundabout, to be honest.
You didn't think it's him though, did you?
So the one over by Sam's, the total, the radius distance is 108 feet. This one is 160, so
Okay.
it's significantly larger. The lane widths are comparable with a truck apron, that's comparable, but it's gonna be easier to navigate around. As far as how it compares to the one in Durham, I'm not sure.
Yeah, and I mean, it could be bigger, but that was some of the balance where we looked at, hey, let's try to keep this, so a truck can get through, but as small as possible, so we have to take the least amount of land possible to construct it. So when we went back for round 2 revisions on this, all that was kind of taken into place, so you can get a big truck around and take the least amount of property.
Because we noticed the smaller roundabouts, it seems like there's more traffic and it just seems harder to ingress, egress. that makes
Yeah,
sense.
and the Sam's, they were really limited by the build out that was already around there, so that kind of constrained that intersection.
That was one of, we did some property owner coordination meetings early on, and a lot of the property owners could, verbalize they thought it was gonna be a great improvement, and they were excited about it. The one property owner that off of Countryside, on that north side, they wanted us to scooch those two approaches closer.
Right there?
Yes, so wanted us to scooch that and that just a little bit closer, but then you run into that where you can't get in and out, so we're really restricted, like that's the minimum separation you can have.
Are you done, Tim?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman? So that's what I was gonna ask is, I see an improvement could be made, and I know I'm speaking against what I've already been questioning, the encroachment on land, but the size of the circle diameter could remain the same, but the approach not having to be so tight of a curve would allow a truck to have a straighter path if more was taken. You see what I'm saying? But, so, you kind of jumped where I was going next. What would be any business for trucks to be back here? Future, or is there businesses, because that's all residential right here, right?
Moving trucks.
And, yeah, okay, moving trucks aren't 53-foot semi-trucks, which is the problem at the 108-foot diameter typically. At least, I mean, there may be, but I've never seen one. Usually the box trucks are the shorter ones. Is there something in mind for the future of why that needs to be bigger?
No, not specifically. I think the biggest driver for that is because the Drake's Creek through Durham Farms was actually designed to be a major collector. And so while we don't intend to have those large trucks going through there, they may traverse that area. And so we're just designed it to accommodate that.
Because I'm thinking, where would they go from here to get back to an interstate or a main road?
They would
This
go-
way or this way wouldn't be, they'd be
They
going.
would go Avant, did they say that? Avant. and
Back
then
to
they
New Shackle?
Come in, and then they would turn left, and then they would be right there at the eventual stoplight that is supposed to go in there.
That New
Correct?
Shackle Island, right?
Yeah, that's correct, isn't it, guys?
At Old Drake's Creek.
That's gonna be way off in the future, because if they go that way now, they're in big trouble.
Yes.
So that
It's a
leads to my
dangerous
next
spot.
question is, there going to be any kind of signage saying no trucks, or, like in my neighborhood, I live in Wessington Place. There's signs that are ancient that say no vehicles over so many axles can go through this neighborhood, period. And for the most part, they obey it, and if they don't, they're ripping down power lines or, getting stuck back in there and having to turn around at Whitten Elementary. Is that a consideration to keep the trucks out until these roads can accommodate them?
Don't think so, simply because Drake's Creek was designed to accommodate them. So they could, instead of taking Avant, they could continue north and then take a left on, I think it's Gingerwood, but I can't remember the name for sure. And it ties into Old Drake's Creek Road, if they were brave. But I think a lot more of them would probably continue north to Long Hollow.
So Drake's Creek was designed to accommodate them, but not yet, right? Because it's not built out to go to New Shackle. Is that correct?
So that's Old Drake's Creek now. Drake's Creek actually runs just north-south, so that it cuts into Long Hollow. There's a signal there now.
And I would also add
Yes,
that,
this kind of-
while
it turns left.
I don't think anyone anticipates a lot of trucks back there, Mr. Jones, if a truck does go back there and decides maybe not,
If you go in that one.
regardless of what we sign, that they can get around that roundabout, so they're not stuck in it. So it does provide a way for a truck, regardless of the sign and stuff, or not, to get around and not get stuck.
So back to my fellow committee members' question, you mentioned the Sam's Club roundabout and the size of it. What about the one on the north side of Drake's Creek Road, Durham Farms? What's the diameter of that one? That looks fairly small.
I don't know that one, I'm sorry.
It looks really small, and I'm wondering how the trucks, if they get past this one, which they will, because that's considerably bigger than the one at Sam's, how they navigate the next one to get out of that. Like, there's no defined route to be letting trucks in there. The potential for them to get stuck or cause damage is great without that known pathway, or all roads, all 5 of them, being able to take the truck, or the other 4, I should say. I just want some forethought, make sure that that's being considered, and I know you guys can think of everything in the world, but you add another person in the mix, somebody's gonna come up with another idea, that's how it goes, but,
This
so.
project is pretty complicated with the various factors. I mean, it has almost everything you can
Oh,
think
yeah.
of, from the stream and the roundabout and, 3 barrel box culverts and the constructability of keeping traffic open to all of these approaches, and constructing those culverts is gonna be pretty challenging, but they worked out a phasing timeline. So part of the size, I believe, is probably also partly related to that, to accommodate that constructability while maintaining traffic.
The constructability of the future roads, the pathways, is that what you're talking about?
Constructing the roundabout while maintaining traffic flow.
Yeah, but I'm talking about specifically where the truck goes after it gets past that roundabout that is navigable by trucks. Like, I'm fine with it being navigable by big trucks, the biggest of trucks, that's fine, but until the infrastructure behind it is ready for the trucks, how do we keep the trucks out of it? 'Cause we don't want them going in there and making a mess.
Can I say one thing, Mr. Webb, if you don't mind, I'm sorry. And I know we're bombarding you with it, but my biggest concern is worried about taking property. It looks like a great idea, but I'm just saying worried about taking property that does not want to be given. That's number one. But then number two is I really am worried about okay, so you come up here, like, right now, you come up here and you just turn and go down here and there's like the soccer fields, the creek back in there, Durham Farms off here. You come down and go to the end. And then you make a left, or if you go in this, you go in the roundabout. You see what I'm at? So when you get, and same way here, this is great. It's well done. I'm not an engineer, so I mean, it just looks great. But you come down here and you turn on, wait, sorry, I was looking at it wrong. You turn on here, on Avant. You turn on Avant right here, okay? And you come up here to this end, and there's this like ranch style house that sits off the road on the left. And then there's a house across the street. You know where I mean? And then you turn left.
Yeah.
And you go right down here, and you are at the spot that has been requested the traffic light be put in. I believe it's already been voted on, maybe even before I was a commissioner. I can't remember.
Yeah, there's joint
But
monies for the.
that's supposed to happen, and that right there in a little like my little 2013 Toyota is difficult to get out and speed up enough. So like when you get there, I don't know how, because right here's the little White House Utility District water station. Once they come up here, I don't know how they're going to get out safely, and I don't know how they're going to back up. They're just stuck.
The truck will never get out.
Yeah, it's a really sharp, really deep drop off. So what happens at that point is what I think that's what he's asking.
Yeah.
And I think that Toby had a question.
You may be able to address it.
Well, I want to say something, and this is not, don't mean this in any bad, I'm not being sarcastic, I guess is what I'm trying to say. When doing a project of this magnitude, there's things that you do on the backside of things to make things better that you like, we've got to do something here. Everything that you're asking questions about, good questions, are things that the city of Hendersonville are gonna have to take care of without our help. It's their streets. And that's gonna be something that, a city of the magnitude of Hendersonville, it's a good city, it's a good town. And we got the brain trust here that they'll have to go forward and make sure that things fall in line with MUCD rules, all these things that go along with this. The main thing that we need to really talk about is just our one county road that ties into it, and making sure what we do here, because there's things that is going to go on here, and that's great. But I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is just making sure that our part of it, we get all the questions answered about our part of it, to make sure that.
So I get what you're saying, and I appreciate that. But I believe that the reason we have these committees is to hold these discussions about the impacts that it has on the citizens. And I know you agree with that. And I'm not a roads guy, and I know that you know more about it than I do. But what I worry about is how do they get out if we don't post it? And I'm just wanting to bring awareness, because if this moves forward, it's going to happen. If somebody comes through and they know that it's there, or if their GPS reroutes them, they will be stuck there. And I don't know how they're going to get out, because it's too deep of a gully to turn, and then they can't really back up there because it's got that rise. You know where I mean, right there.
I do.
And so I think that all best intentions, but it's like the old cartoons that lead to cliff. It's a worry, because I know that those are county citizens that's going to be right there, and county citizens' children who are driving across that spot.
Right.
And so and I don't mean just county, city too.
Sure.
I don't care if they're from Albuquerque. It just, it's a worry.
So a couple of things I might note. So first, I think with the speed limit on that Park Road being 15 miles per hour, I do think it's pretty unlikely
You're
that
right.
someone's
That's a good
GPS
point.
will route them there. I think most people avoid that road unless they actually need to access it.
Good point.
With that, I mean, I wouldn't want to put a truck restriction on the whole road, but I mean, it's possible to put some sort of truck restriction signage on Avant closer to that turnoff, because then they could still turn
Yes.
and go back into Durham Farms and reroute a different way.
Just like, just like a warning, just something just to give them a heads up, not to say you can't do it.
And if I could add, the current roadway design allows for trucks. So this isn't increasing truck capacity, because they can drive trucks
Yeah.
right now. And so the ability for a truck is already there. And this was not meant to develop for more trucks. This was meant to meet existing conditions. It is not meant for, we don't have any new development in mind. We've just seen the impacts that are out there now and the safety. And so we said, with the safety and the creek and taking as little property as possible, what project can we come up with that kind of meets all those goals while not being perfect? And after, many revisions, this is kind of where we landed. But it is not to increase capacity. It's really to make it safer, make traffic flow better. And if anything, it's probably a little more, I don't know if it's more challenging for a truck to turn around that roundabout than just go left on Avant right now. Maybe easier just to hook a left in a truck on Avant right now than to go through there, so.
No, that answers my question. I mean, that was my worry, and I think you're right. I think that those two things, the miles per hour and the fact that they can already do it, it doesn't stop. So if they were gonna get routed, so that's a great point. So I just didn't think of that. I was worried about it. We've all been stuck there before.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
So it's already designed for the largest of trucks that are allowed to go back there, or certain size?
I don't think we did the road design originally, but I've driven there and there's no restriction right now on trucks going back there, so I don't know of any type of restriction that there is on the existing roadway for a truck driver to not go on that roadway.
I think what he's saying, they're not wanting to try to change the capacity. Whatever's already there is already there. Right, correct.
Yeah, trucks can get there now, so this isn't doing this so more trucks and more traffic can get through, it's just making it safer.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I just want as much foresight in there as possible. And with all due respect to our highway superintendent, I was asking these questions overall, general, but I am considering Countryside Drive as I ask the questions for everybody, because that road has 3 dead ends. That's it. It doesn't go anywhere. And if they went down that road, it'd be trouble. But I understand the point. If there are no restrictions to trucks at all, then there's not much we can do about that. Go ahead.
Excuse me, you didn't ask me a question, I apologize.
No.
I was just going to say that if, since that's county right of way, if you decided to post truck restriction signage, then that would be something for you guys to consider.
Well, this is all city though, right? The approach to it.
Yes, that's right.
So any trucks coming in would more than likely come up this way from the bypass area. We got a little sliver there, but by that point it'd be too late to turn around. I don't know, I'm bringing up things just for you to consider. Like I said, I see that it is a good thing if it's designed to the right size, and we can get the eminent domain part not used and make it fair for the citizens, or benefit the citizens that are in those areas. It may be unusable property that they're willing to sell, that's fine. But I don't know about voting with a positive recommendation until I can know that, because I don't want to trample on a citizen that is strictly opposed to this. Is there a way that we can find out about this appraisal study? And I mean, I'll go do my homework and go talk to the citizens, but can't do that tonight. So,
Mr. Chairman, too, and we'll just get in queue once he's done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I mean, that's a question that's just hanging out there for y'all to think about and answer, and we can get to, and that's fine, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, to Mr. Ellis's point, a lot of this is in city limits in regards to eminent domain. When I met with Mayor Clary and spoke to him about this, I like what I see on here. If you're a bus driver, police officer, first responder, etc., this simplifies response times. You got school buses with who knows how many kids on there, and you look at all these streets on here. I wouldn't want to be driving a car. I mean, I wouldn't even take my daughter over there to teach her to drive because there's just too much going on. Can't imagine what a school bus is going through. So the city of Hendersonville, I can personally say, with Ms. Locke too recently, has responded to concerns real quick in my district with a Costco situation. They've always been on top of things, so I have no doubt that they will stay on top of the city portion of this. I have no doubt in our county road superintendent that he'll do the right thing and guide us to the right path. So I think I'm ready to move forward with this tonight, and because this is a safety issue for our citizens. You're on a tight deadline with ARPA funding. If we kick this thing, and I understand there's good intentions, but if we kick this can down the road one more month, that puts you guys one more month behind, and I don't want to see that.
Does anyone else, did you have another question for them?
And I,
Well, if they can, if they can answer the question I propose, that's fine, but if not, then I'm ready to make a
You
motion.
guys are awesome, thank you so
I
much.
would-
for
I would-
this.
I'd
like that.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I just really appreciate it, I hope you're not trying to keep asking. That's what we're doing.
I would make, I'll say this comment, I'll make sure that we have on Countryside the right signage for letting people know ahead of time that it is dead end. And
If it even needs,
Yeah.
if you deem it something that you need to.
We'll definitely look at it and make sure that people will know that.
So it's my understanding, reading on some of this exhibit too, that the development at Durham Farms is kind of pitching name of this, is that correct? So are they using their own engineers?
No, we're utilizing an engineer with a contracted from the city directly.
The reason I said I like the concept that they have on their back end versus the one at Sam's. I like that, their concept, their roll downs, the approach, it's tire friendly. If you kind of was to hit a little splitter or whatever, it's a little bit more tire friendly. I encourage you, if you get a chance, to look at that one roundabout on the
I
north
will.
side of Durham Farms.
Good stuff.
I'd like to make a motion to defer this till next month until we have time to get citizen feedback on this. My intentions are to positively recommend this up to the commission, but until I can hear from the citizens that are affected, property owners, I want to know, and without them knowing how they feel about that, I can't override a citizen and say that.
I like that. I have a question though, and if we want to go ahead with this motion, we can. I had a question for our county folks back here too. If that's okay. But you guys might be able to answer too. But has there been? Can I ask both? Can I suspend the rules and ask them also?
Motion to suspend.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So my question is, and I think I know the answer to this because I asked a little bit, but my main question is, has there been any I want to say it, not agenda in the wrong way, but has there been any move to annex these spots of the county? As far as you know, I mean, who knows, but I just, you haven't heard anything like that. And then have you heard, other than just not knowing, have you heard anything? Because I haven't had any citizens say, I don't want to do that to me. Just transparency. So I haven't had anybody say they want to either, so they may be unaware of it. But I'm just saying, have you had any pushback outside of the immediate property owners, which are the most important, but have you had any pushback otherwise?
I have not.
No, I think generally it's seen as a big, safety for both vehicles and pedestrians, and the ability to use, I think, around $2 million in ARPA funds for this project, and that's kind of what puts us on the timeline, because so far there's been no notice from the government that there is going to be any reprieve on that date. So that's kind of the main point for us. We might fine tune the design a little bit, and right away a little bit, but the timeline on this is significant, because otherwise it goes to all local taxpayer dollars.
I got it. And this is where you see it going anyway. Okay, that's cool. If y'all don't have any more for them, I was gonna have a couple for you guys.
I do have a question. And I got a motion out there too, but I want to question before I leave that hanging out there. You had mentioned before that some homeowners have been approached and talked to, and you didn't know how they were going to decide depending on how that appraisal will come back. Do you know specifically if these homeowners have been approached, the ones in the county? Do you know anything about them per se?
They were included in the initial property owner discussions, coordination meetings. It's a little bit, I don't know, because the gentleman who attended may or may not be the trustee. There's a trust for that property. And I've never met the owner, and I don't believe that there's been confirmation yet as to whether that gentleman was representing the trust or not.
Is there a home on that property?
It's further back. There's a home.
Is somebody living in it?
Yes.
But they're not the owner.
So that, I believe that the owner and that gentleman is living there as well, but it's not clear as to whether they represent the trust or have any ownership. They're not listed as an owner. So, I'm not
That
certain.
makes it difficult to
Yeah,
find out how they feel about it.
Okay, that,
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think a lot of this in regards to property ownership is, I mean, that's gonna really fall on the city. I'm not trying to pass the buck to them.
I'm not talking about the city.
Right, but it's their project. They're just coming here for a portion of the road to speak with our road superintendent about, taking that portion of the road over and they're gonna maintain it. I think really, I mean, I'm gonna vote against deferral because it's a safety issue and I know they're up against a tight deadline here. And like I said, I think the city has done their due diligence on stuff that I've asked them to do in the past, and I think they'll, do that the same.
I'll just say that when I appreciate that, but when I look at something like this, just so you know how I'm thinking, I get, if it would be wrong for me, like, if you guys own this property, and if it would be wrong for me to go take a portion of it against your will, then it's wrong for the government to do that. That's the way I see government. And so therefore, life, liberty, and the pursuit of property, but you don't want the government pursuing property. So you see where I'm going with that? And so that's where that it's a real stickler for me. And I really do respect that there's a timeline, and I really do think that if the money's there, we need to try to, I get it, I understand. But the whole do no harm, because if it's wrong for me as an individual to take it, or if it's wrong for me to drive over there with a shovel and claim it, it should be wrong for any government, any entity to take it. You understand what I mean? I know, but that's where the I am on my votes, always. You'll see that. And so I was elected to fight against that. And so we've seen issues over here with eminent domain, we've seen issues in other parts of the county, and it gets very worrisome on the citizens' part. And that's their whole reason for electing folks is to stand up for them. And I don't think you guys are the big bad wolves by any means. I think it's a beautiful project.
And I
So
think
that's my word.
Mr. Sittler may be able to speak to this as well, but the eminent domain, I believe, is a separate issue. So if we go and we have to do eminent domain, I believe we have to come back to the county anyway to go through that process.
Okay.
So this is really just the tie-in of the project. And if we would have to do eminent domain, I think that's another process. And that's why I was just texting our city attorney. and-
Yeah, that was what I was gonna end with, was
So-
y'all understand that eminent domain's gonna be different here.
I just didn't know if it changes everything to me. So that right there, you see, I just revealed to you in my card just the way I feel about it.
Yeah.
And
Mr. Chairman, I'll retract my motion.
Okay.
I'm gonna make a motion to move this.
Y'all
positive.
are still out of,
Yeah, I got one more question. Do you guys have any qualms with either of y'all? Like, I'm talking about like the structurally or anything that you've seen so far, is there anything that sticks out? Because y'all are our county folks, and so I trust what y'all say on that.
Sure. It's obviously a very problematic area. This is a really innovative and good solution to piece it all together and help things flow a lot better. The only question we have, I think just got answered, was, right-of-way acquisition within the county's portion, if that's necessary. How does that work and what's going to be needed, that kind of thing. And so there'll be a lot more involvement for the commission if it should come to that, where there's eminent domain needed and within that county portion. The city can't condemn property out in the county, I don't believe, and so that's going to come back to the county commission if that needs to happen. So there's a lot of fail safes in that regard.
Okay, that's good. Well, did you have a?
One question for Josh. With the issues we've had with flooding, Station Camp Creek area, is it Drake's Creek similar, or have you looked at the underpass that they're planning out on, what you call it, the culvert that they're gonna put underneath of this? Have you looked at the size of it to make sure that
No, that
future not gonna have an issue?
No, they'll have to size that in accordance with best engineering practices, and I'm sure they'll give, our office a chance to look at that stuff too. But I know, Greg's Creek has, there's bridge crossings and that kind of stuff, and Toby and his office do a phenomenal job of getting in there and cleaning out underneath those. Stuff that's ours, we do a pretty good job. We've been, obviously with the state, we've been having a lot of questions for them lately, but, any crossings that are there are gonna have to be sized appropriately. If there's anything in the floodplain and that kind of stuff that's in the county, that'll go through Marshall's office as well, to get a flood certificate and all that stuff.
That's something I would want, no shortcuts.
Absolutely.
Built for the future type of.
Absolutely.
That's
All
awesome.
this and all that, yeah, it's gotta be really planned out.
Okay.
Well, if that's all questions for
Yeah,
y'all,
sorry.
thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys, for being so candid with us too.
I'll second Commissioner Smith's motion.
We're back in session, and before, I got one more
Oh, yes,
question
go ahead.
for our road superintendent. Is there, and I kinda asked this question, but is there anything that you think would not be a good thing for the way that you like the roads to be done, if the city were doing that part? I know the money part would be good for us tonight to deal with it, but you understand. I just trust your judgment on that.
This is an excellent project. I've been involved in several projects like this in several areas, and from a safety standpoint, this is a great way to do this. It creates continuous flow with slower speed limits. It's something that is much needed, and I'm tickled that City of Hendersonville is stepping up to do this.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. So we have a motion, and will you restate your motion?
Yes, motion is to move this forward with a positive recommendation.
Okay, and then we have a second.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same token? Okay, passed. Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Sarah and Jesse, for coming in and telling us about your project. We really appreciate it, and love to hear of any advancement, what's going on, update it, and let me know, and I'll make sure we get it out to this committee and to the commissioners.
Thank you. We look forward to it.
Appreciate y'all being so
Thank
kind.
you guys for coming out.
Thank you.
The next item was to just discuss, I wanted to, just from a discussion point, talk to you about some of our state aid projects that I had on the schedule to get done before July 31st of this year. And we haven't met since March, so I wanted to say that when we had the May 8th floods, and I know everybody understands, hey, it was an event, it was catastrophic, and we had three different floods that day that were equated to 100 to 200 year rains, each one of them. They were over 4 inches, and some of them was considered 5 in certain areas, and we had 3 of them. And so what happened was we got into a situation where a lot of bridge approaches were washed away. We had sections of roads 400 and 500 foot long that were in the fields that was just totally washed away. And so we went into, my paving crew had to shut down, and we went into repair mode. We started picking up debris. At this point, we've picked up hundreds of loads of debris. It was not, in 2010, and Tim, it affected Nashville in such a great way, and it affected Nashville more than it did Sumner County.
May 2010.
Yeah, and that's the only one that we have to compare this to. And with this one, the state has told me, as far as for Sumner County, it was more of an event for us than the 2010. And so what happened, when we had the tornado back in the winter, we had Tornado Alley, right? It was an area that the tornado followed. I had trees down and debris, and it was something that we worked months to fix this. Well, this flood was all over the county. I mean, we probably got more creeks than any county in the state of Tennessee. I'm just gonna tell you, we got creeks everywhere. We got 500 bridges. We're covered up with this stuff, and so brush, trees were down. So the first phase was to get the trees out of the road. The second phase was to get the trees picked up and hauled off. And then the third phase was to clean out all the bridges and then start on the culverts and ditches. And during that time, in between these times, we were paving small areas. So I had to make a decision on my state aid paving. We had done on North Corinth, Old 109, and let's see, it was also Mount Vernon Road. We'd had many of the repairs already done, getting ready to pave this. I had to make a decision that because I was doing what was the safest thing for the county, and that was repairing the roads and getting the roads as safe as possible, I had to work past my point to where of no return, that I knew I couldn't start on these projects. If I started on them and went past July 31st, then I would have not received any of my state aid funds, which was 98 cents on the dollar. And knew I wasn't gonna make it. There was no way to do it because I had to do what was right for the citizens to make sure we saved up the roads as best as possible. So I made amendments with the state and moved them 3 projects to after July 31st, which keeps our money intact where we'll get every dime. And I'm fixing to knock those projects out in the next several weeks. But I haven't got with y'all, wanted to just update you and let you know them 3 projects slid from being done before July 31st till after now. And we will get them done. We're actually starting on Mount Vernon next week, and I'm excited. And those people, poor people, they've been waiting on me for 2 years. The first year I was gonna do it, they were, that was the water tank project that Beth Page had, and so we had to wait for them to get the water line up to the top of the ridge and get all that done. And then this year we were well on our way, and then the flood happened, in which we had to stop again to take care of that. And I mean, I wished I could have took some of y'all for a ride and showed you some of these roads and what we were dealing with. You haven't seen any, I've never seen nothing like it. It was amazing. So, with that being said, just wanted to let you know that those have transferred over. And then I sent y'all, I like to do an 18-month paving schedule because we get into projects that we're working on, and sometimes things come up and you can't, because of something else, you can't finish it right then. And I like to make sure that we have a big enough list to where we can tell people, you're on the list, we're gonna get you. And then what I try to do is, once we're going, I will send out emails to the commissioners and let them know what roads we're doing and at what time, when we're getting closer. I did that last year.
I appreciate that you do that.
And it just gives you a talking point from the standpoint of, well, I'm gonna be closing down this road several times in the next week, and so when people call you, they know we're communicating. So, and that's important. So, and that's all I have.
Toby, you've done a great job.
Well, thank you. It's
I appreciate it.
we have really been under fire with a lot of natural events that have rocked our world, to say the least. And it's been very, we've worked our tails off, and we've tried to do the best we could. So, and for the most part, the citizens have been great. I'll have to say that. So, you know, when you're out there at 2 o'clock in the morning sawing on a tree, and then you look next to you and there's a guy that you don't know where he came from, but he's sawing on a tree with you.
Yeah.
That, I can't tell you how many times that's happened.
That's called living in the country.
Yeah.
I lost a friend a week ago this past Friday, and we laid him to rest Friday. I want to thank each and every one of y'all as a citizen of this county. And that goes for you too, young lady. As a citizen of this county, and as a dedicated public servant to this county. I want to thank y'all. Toby Ellis, class act. It was greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely. We appreciate all.
He gives us an example we should try to follow through with. I mean, the sheriff's department is a great example of how to run a department, there's no doubt about it. And, he was a great example to me and to everybody.
Absolutely.
Yes, Toby, I'd like to thank you and your crews too at the Old Drakes Creek Road and at the Drakes Creek itself for the amount of debris that y'all poured out of there. It was just unbelievable. It was just stacked, probably 12 feet high, 150 feet long. I've never seen trees that big before.
Yeah.
Pulled out of a creek, never had. But y'all did a tremendous job.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
I mean, I'll stop with this, but I mean, truly, and I agree with what you said, Commissioner Wright. I mean, everybody loves our officers that are out there and just really broke everybody's heart when we found out the news. And back to Toby, I was gonna say, when that flood happened, we drove through, and I was driving around trying to see as much as I could, and I didn't see how it was possible that your crew went out and got some of that stuff cleaned up so quickly, because some of the roads were like not even there anymore, and you had that stuff fixed so quickly. It was just amazing. But anyway, it's enough about, it's a love fest right now, but yeah, go ahead.
I have a question. Before we move on, is this gonna be handled here, or should it have been handled here?
Well,
I just have a question.
I probably should have, I don't really know exactly where that should have been, truthfully. I should know where that should have been, but he had a question about old business that we talked about last time.
Is it proper parliamentary procedure? I gotta ask a question about
Can we do
something
that
happened in
when
our
we-
last meeting.
Can we do that when we get to commission business, you think?
Well, that's what I'm asking. Can I can I ask that question under commission business, or should I address it under report of road superintendent, old business? 'Cause
What is
I expected it to be there. About the
had
minutes on
noted-
7B, we started a discussion in March, and I wanted to ask questions about
Did
that.
we not already approve the minutes?
We did, and they're correct, but
Correct.
there was left out there to be continued type thing. It should have been on old business.
We said we're gonna put it on old business, and I'll take the blame for it. I didn't say to put it on old business.
It's just a question, really. I mean, it doesn't even have to be a lot of discussion. I just
You
kinda
can
wanted an
handle it how
update.
you like, but it should have just been an agenda add-on. Is what should have happened in the
I feel
agenda
like we need to wait.
approved.
I think the most appropriate response would be to wait, unless is that something
Okay,
that we
it may
do?
be a one-sentence answer question. I can wait till then. I don't care when. I can
I just
ask
don't wanna
after
do
the
the wrong
meeting.
thing.
I just think the citizens want another answer to that. It's just a progress update. I thought maybe he would put it on a progress update, and it's not on there because old business
I'll tell you
wasn't
what.
clarified.
You keep dancing around it. What do you want to do?
Can we put,
Have an answer.
can we put next month? Can we come back and?
I want to know something tonight.
I don't think we can though. I don't think.
What is the question?
Under old business, I thought maybe you would address on the Wolfpack Way speed limit signs and stuff like that, because you said that they were ordered last time, so it was kind of a to be continued. And I just wanted to know if it's still waiting or if they got done, because it's been a few months.
We did state that we would put it on old business, and it was my fault. I didn't bring it up, Toby. I'm sorry.
But that's-
Well,
I didn't know if that's his part to line item. I didn't know who to question that. So that's
I'm
why
actually dealing with the paving company on some punch list items that they need to fix. And then once that gets done, then I'll make sure the signs get put in place, and then it'll be a matter of acceptance back to us once everything's done. But it's getting done, but we're
Are
almost
they
there.
in at least?
I've got to go out there tomorrow. I know they were talking about getting them installed, so I've got to go. There's some areas that they were supposed to fix, and I'll check on it and I'll let you know tomorrow.
Okay, I appreciate it. And could we just have that as an update on next month to say,
Sure.
hey, they're done or they're getting done?
There's no
Yeah.
vote on that, so there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong
No.
with it. But it's just I
Thanks.
didn't want something that you were asking for a vote.
No. It was a point
Okay.
of citizen information. I'm sure parents wanted to know that, so I just figured I'd ask.
Got it.
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. Well, I should have put it on there because
Sorry.
I should have caught it. I didn't. Okay, so
Report of the mayor.
Report of county mayor. There's no report.
There's no report.
Commission business, there's no report, and so, last.
Make a motion.
Make a motion, I'll second it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?